The NBA's gauntlet of competition, the deeply talented West, is home to not only many of the NBA's top players, but the most stacked rosters in the current league. With the last season's champs running it back with the same squad, it seems that the rest of the league would be in trouble. Well, they would be if they didn't come prepared. Denver loaded up with an arsenal of new pieces around the hero of horses, Nikola Jokic, holding the best in the world title for the past several seasons, with only a couple names even worthy of being named in the same breath as his. Houston finished up last season as the 2 seed with some of the most intense defense to transition game that we've seen in a long time, lacking the offensive firepower and shooting to really get deep into the playoffs. And they just somehow got their paws on arguably the greatest and most unstoppable scorer of all time, Kevin Durant. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. We still have to look out for Luka and LeBron in LA, and on the flip side, the Clippers rounded out their roster with some older veterans. The Warriors are still competing with Steph and Jimmy. The Mavs just landed possibly a generational prospect in Cooper Flag and are awaiting the return of the craftiest dribbler of all time, and the Timberwolves are looking for another offensive leap from Anthony Edwards. There are also so many teams that are looking to fight their way into the championship sweepstakes. The Pelicans having Big Z in his peak athletic shape of his career. The Spurs are looking to finally escape the lottery with an alien who just keeps getting better at a terrifying rate, and the league is soon to be in a world of trouble. With the NBA season just a couple weeks away, there's no doubt we're in for a treat as fans yet again. But who's the team that we should really fear the most? How's it going, y'all? It's Hydrated Mason. And the Western Conference, after a year where we thought it was going to be very, very intimidating, it only looks like it got even more dangerous. For many teams out in the West, for their futures going forward, are very much strongly determined by if their current cores can compete in the playoffs this season. Make sure to smash the like button and subscribe if you have not already. Let's get straight to it. Championship DNA is something that is hardly talked about when it comes to the actual playoff success of a roster. However, it's something that cannot be underestimated whatsoever, and especially in the parity era of the NBA. What we saw from the Oklahoma City Thunder last year was something that was a historically dominant season, but it was something that we had kind of seen before when it comes to roster construction. Very many great defenders who were put together because they are willing to do the right play to make their team win. When you look at the 2024 Boston Celtics as well as the 2023 Denver Nuggets, you can see that these teams were all built in similar ways, with lots of players that are willing to hustle and fight for every loose ball, every offensive rebound, and are willing to go guard whoever they have to guard in order to try to get a stop, and can shoot a 3 if they need to, attack the basket, do whatever it takes. The Thunder were very much capable of this, as they had a solid roster, pretty much spots 1 through 10, obviously having the MVP of the league, having great defenders all the way throughout, along with some complementary scoring. J-Dub did an incredible job, especially in that finals series. And with championship DNA, the team that I wanted to really look at is the Houston Rockets. While they may have just gotten booted in the first round last year, and with this core have not had any other prior playoff experience, one thing that you can acknowledge is that they are willing to be tough and gritty and fight for every basket needed. We saw in the series against the Warriors last year, they were down 3-1 and ended up forcing a game 7 because they figured out not only that their double big lineup was very effective with Steven Adams and Alperen Sengun, but because also guys like Amen Thompson, Tari Eason, Jabari Smith are such versatile defensive wings that no matter who they're guarding, they will make whoever's trying to score's life absolute hell, because they are one of the best defensive teams that we have seen in quite a while, and they only seem that they have gotten better because they just picked up KD. As we know, KD is one of the most plug and play offensive players, as he just kind of fits into whatever system you put him in, and he's also able to provide some playmaking, which they will lack this season with Fred VanVleet being out. However, I think if Amen Thompson can make a bit of a playmaking leap, and depending on how they will use Reed Shepherd, that will make them very hard to stop. Now, when we talk about championship DNA, we cannot forget Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets. Just 2 seasons ago, they walked home with their title, and they have very much the same core that they had back then, with the replacement of Cam Johnson for MPJ, which in my opinion is a pretty solid move, as Cam Johnson's not afraid to go out there and lock up either. Now, Cam Johnson is one of the better shooters that we've seen in the NBA NBA. And if you put him next to a guy like Nikola Jokic, after what we saw Cam Johnson do last year, where he was a very good off-ball shooter and catch-and-shoot guy, if you give him arguably the best passer we've ever seen, it's going to be very hard to stop him. He shot a whopping 39% from three last year on 7 attempts, so don't be surprised if we see a 40+% shooting year from Cam Johnson. They got a backup big finally in Valanciunas to somewhat relieve when Jokic comes off the floor, so they don't have to play an absolute scrub center. No offense to DeAndre Jordan, but Unc was still kicking it at the ripe age of 36 last year, and I think it was about time for him to hang it up, so thankfully Valanciunas relieved him of his duties. Some of their younger guys, such as Christian Brown, Julian Strawther, Peyton Watson, are only going to continue to get better. Consistency is what we're looking for from those guys. They got Bruce Brown back, as Jokic said, to save his career. They also picked up Tim Hardaway Jr., who is a bench scoring spark. What we can look for as an X factor with this team is Aaron Gordon's continued do-it-all mentality, along with being an effective three-point shooter, as we saw last year, was a very much of an outlier for him. He shot 43%, so having that high of a shooting year from him was incredible. And in the playoffs, he actually shot 4 threes a game on 38% as well. And while championship DNA mostly applies to teams that are relevant and popping right now, it does not leave out some of the guys that have done this, been on this stage before. And the biggest competitor for that is the Golden State Warriors. Jimmy Butler has been on the final stage, carrying his roster that didn't exactly belong there 2 separate times. And Steph Curry is obviously a 4-time champ along with Draymond. So the only issue holding them back is really just injuries, as we saw Steph Curry go out last year with the hamstring, and Jimmy Butler was not playing great because he injured his tailbone. And with Jonathan Kuminga signing and apparently appearing happy so far after their first preseason game, if this is going to be the case, I think this team is going to be a very much sleeper playoff team. Now, I'm not saying they're going to go out and win the title outright, but they can definitely give someone some fits in a playoff series. And if you especially catch Steph Curry on the wrong night, he can send you packing in a game 7. The Los Angeles Lakers are in the same boat, that they have LeBron, who's obviously looking on the brink of retirement, and hopefully that's not what he decides to do. Him and Luka Doncic obviously going forward. Luka is the Lakers' prized possession. They're looking for the shoulders of DeAndre Ayton to carry them defensively and be the anchor that they needed. Last year in the playoffs, they got exposed, not really having a good big man, and Jackson Hayes was not the guy they were looking for. DeAndre Ayton has been a guy that we've seen, when he's playing well, can be a pretty good defender. He's big enough, physical enough. He's a great rebounder. His biggest thing is just being able to tie all the defensive pieces together. When Anthony Davis was there, they were a great defense, and when he left, you instantly saw his impact. So I think as long as DeAndre Ayton is playing great defense, but obviously offensively, he's going to be able to be spoon-fed a lot by 2 of the greatest passers that we have in the modern NBA, in LeBron and Luka. As crazy as it is to say, I'm not sure if the Lakers are really a championship contender with the current roster, as we saw how badly they went out last year in the playoffs. But also, again, if defense is really the focus, and with Luka finally being a good shape and not the shape being round like he was last year, he's able to be a lot quicker on defense and not be blown by so often. If this Lakers team can get out and run the floor in transition, and especially transition defense being a big focus for them, I think they'll be just fine, and they could even end up with a top 4 spot in the Western Conference. And while the Lakers are a team with very high expectations every season, a team that we don't really have any guaranteed expectations for is the Clippers. Now, we never know exactly what the health looks for of Kawhi Leonard, and with his situation with planting them trees, which I don't think he was out there planting any of them, if this comes back to bite him, if they have to forfeit any picks, money, fines, anything like that, this could be a scary situation for the backside of James Harden and Kawhi Leonard's careers. Now, I do love the defensive pieces that they have around these guys and a lot of wings that they have on this team. Chris Dunn defensively is incredible, and I think this team has exactly what it takes to win a championship, especially when Zubac is playing at the level he is, and he showed last season, even in the series against Nikola Jokic, he did a very good job of holding his own. They brought back Chris Paul for his farewell tour, which is very sad to say, as he's been a guy that's been in the league almost as long as I've been alive. Now, they do have very, very many old players on this roster, and I think that is going to be the one downside. It's going to be hard for them to really have a solid regular season record when they have so many old players. Now, James Harden is a guy that usually is always stays healthy. The only problem being Kawhi Leonard. As long as he's there in the playoffs, we did get a pretty good Kawhi last year. It just wasn't enough to get past Denver. I think if this team can really maximize the impact of John Collins on the court, I think John Collins is a very underrated player, and he's actually a very solid small ball big. When Zoo is off the court especially, they can have him hold it down if they don't really want to rely on an older Brook Lopez. And also, he's going to be an elite lob threat in a pick and roll with James Harden. I think this team should realistically expect to get to the playoffs and hopefully have a solid run. I just don't know for sure if they would have enough what it takes to get through an entire championship run, especially trying to rely on an offensive system that relies around James Harden. He can be one of the most up and down guys. He can give you 2 40-point games in a series, and then he can also give you 3 games where he shoots tour dates. Now, arguably the weirdest team we're going to talk about today is the Dallas Mavericks. With the horrific ACL injury to Kyrie Irving last year, it forced them into kind of a bad spot to end the season after picking up Anthony Davis, and well, they lucked out after trading Luka and got the #1 pick, which enraged a lot of fans. But they have one of the best defensive front courts in the entire NBA with Gafford, Lively, and Anthony Davis to rotate between. They picked up D'Angelo Russell to kind of fill the point guard gap for just this season and helping until Kyrie can get back. And Cooper Flagg is going to be a very pivotal piece for this team in the next couple of seasons. Depending on how speedy of a recovery we can see from Kyrie Irving, this team could make a deep playoff run, potentially even going to the conference finals. I'm not sure if I would put them as a team that could really compete for a championship, but I believe in the next season or two, health forgiving for Anthony Davis as well. And with Cooper Flagg taking a leap, I think they could be there very soon, and you better watch out. All right, now enough of that old people talk. Let's get into some stuff for the younger guys. Believing in the youth is going to be very important over the next few seasons, and the San Antonio Spurs are going to be the model of that. Picking up Dylan Harper in this year's draft, putting him next to Victor Wembanyama in an incredible roster, along with a second season of Stephon Castle, rookie Carter Bryant, I think this will prove to be a pretty good team. This team is going to be anywhere from a play-in team to a potential low playoff team as a 5 to 6 seed. Now, this is going to require a lot from some of these rookies and younger guys. I think a full healthy season of Vic and De'Aaron Fox is going to be plenty enough to get this team to the play-in. It's just how much of an offensive jump can we expect from Victor Wembanyama to begin with. But with picking up a guy like Luke Cornett as another big, I think they're going to be just fine. And if anything, those two on the court together, how in the world are you going to score? Victor Wembanyama was the runaway with Defensive Player of the Year before he got hurt last season, and honestly, I don't expect it to be any different for any year of this guy's career until he's 38 years old. And while last year the Spurs were a 34-win team, finishing 13th in the West, it's not going to take a lot for them to really jump up with some of the regression of teams that were in front of them, such as the Suns or even the Grizzlies, who will have a lot of injuries to start the season, as well as a team like the Sacramento Kings that we don't really have any high hopes for. I think the Spurs honestly will prove a lot of people wrong this season, and the biggest off-season story in my opinion when it comes to someone coming into this year fresh, looking incredible, look no further than the New Orleans Pelicans. Zion Williamson actually looks incredible to start this year. This is the first time that we've seen him really look the part of peak athletic shape. As we saw last year, he was kind of a big body, but that's all right because he was still getting to the rim at an unprecedented rate, looking like prime Shaq when it comes to getting all of his touches at the rim, and you can't stop him from getting where he wants to go. Now just imagine that, but he's a lot quicker and can move a lot better now that he's not out of shape. They picked up Jordan Poole in a trade that shipped off CJ McCollum, but Jordan Poole is a guy that I am also high on when it comes to his shot creation ability, and I think offensively putting him next to a guy like Zion's good because then you don't have to run the entire offense through him how they did in Washington. And also last year was a very good year for him as he did shoot almost 38% from 3 on 9 attempts. When you look at his perimeter shooting percentiles, he is one of the best in the NBA at this. He has a 99% three-point shooting talent percentile, ranking 5th in the NBA last year. Three-point shot creation, ranking in the 98th percentile. Three-point shot making efficiency, also in the 98th percentile, with a three-point shot quality 2% percentile, meaning he was taking harder shots than almost every player in the entire NBA when it came from 3, and he was is still finding a way to make it work, making 38%. And I think when you put him next to a guy with as much rim pressure as Zion, he's going to be able to get a lot more open looks. Trey Murphy showing that offensively, he has a lot more in store than what we expected. This could very easily be a play-in team or even possibly a playoff team if the fit works out how we would like. I personally have been a partial Pelicans fan since the Anthony Davis days. Now with Zion there, you can't help but at least get excited to see this team play, and on paper they do look very good. It's just a matter of how well Jordan Poole is going to fit next to Zion, and I think this team definitely has some high upside in the next couple of seasons. Now quickly, I just want to shout out teams such as the Jazz, the Trailblazers, the Suns, the Kings, the Grizzlies. I think these teams can have some fun moments this year, but I don't personally see any of these teams doing anything incredible. Aside from the Grizzlies, could potentially be around the play-in again. The first month of the season is going to be horrific for them because they don't have really anyone healthy. Ja, Jaren, Zach Edey, all out at the beginning of the season. But as for the other teams we mentioned, either they are on the decline of having rosters such as the Kings, teams like the Suns where they're still figuring out what their next move is. Same with a team like the Trailblazers and the Jazz. You thought I wasn't really going to talk about the Timberwolves, didn't you? Anthony Edwards, we're looking for another leap from him. After last year we saw in the playoffs, he was continuing to have an incredible playoff run, already on top of his historic three-point shooting season, shooting almost 40% from three on 10 attempts, as well as averaging his career high 27.6 points a game. And his fit next to Julius Randle actually turned out a lot better than we expected. Now, you can say whatever you want about Julius Randle in the Oklahoma City series, but also that was a defense that not many people knew exactly what to do about, so we can't really hold that against him. And in the first two playoff series, Randle was actually very good. He was creating his own shot a lot, and he would actually go on scoring stretches of his own, getting hot from three. That was also his best playoff run of his career, averaging 21.7 points on 50% from the field and 38.5% from three. Randle's biggest issue was just the turnovers, and especially in that Thunder series, he could not hold on to the ball. But I think as long as they have Rudy Gobert, they will always be a great defense. They lost Nikhil, but they still have Jaden McDaniels, who is an incredible defender, one of the most versatile guys in the league that you could put on the other team's best player. I think this team should have Western Conference Finals aspirations again, but if an offensive leap from Anthony Edwards truly does happen, this could be a very scary team that would hopefully be able to pull out a series against the best in the Western Conference, such as Denver, Houston, or OKC. I am slightly upset though that they did get rid of Luka Garza because that's the Iowa boy. But no, realistically, if you just listen to this entire video and you aren't scared of the Western Conference, I don't know what you're doing. There's so many great teams out in West. Oh my God. There's so many great teams out west that scare me as a Thunder fan, but especially just looking in terms of the NBA, there's a lot of teams that have a shot. They can also make a deep run and even win the finals. We saw the Pacers make an unexpected run last year to the finals, so that just tells you that with the right roster construction and the right players and team mindset, just about any of those teams that we mentioned today could probably pull it off, except for maybe Utah. Thank you all for watching today's video. Please drop a like, smash the like button, please. I would appreciate it a lot. Drop a sub if you have not already. If you have any ideas, let me know down in the comments below. And as always, see you next time, cuz.